Hi everyone, thanks for coming back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, well, welcome. This is mostly about my Greyhound Olive and the life that I have with her, but it's also sometimes about my plants, about my house, but I promise this video is just about my Greyhound. I thought maybe I would do a video on the experience that we've just recently been through, because I thought it might be useful if you're thinking about getting a Greyhound and you're wondering what some of the medical conditions that they might suffer from could be. Then this video might just give you a little bit of a heads up, so that if you have a similar experience, you might be a little bit more ready for it. Now, I'm not a vet, I don't have medical experience. I'm only going by what my vet told me while we were going through this and what others have experienced as well. So I'm just passing this information on to you from one non-expert to other people who perhaps may know more about it than I do. Well, 5 weeks ago today, in fact, we were out walking on one of the paths around our neighbourhood, and we passed by a couple of Greyhounds, and just as we were passing by, all of us on lead, one of them, a Greyhound that actually had a green collar as well, lunged at Olive and tore a shred off her outfit that she was wearing, and also a chunk of her flesh, and she had a flap of skin, it was bleeding, she needed stitching. So we went straight to the vets, and the other lady, the other owner, she paid for it straight away, no questions asked, there was no problem with that. But it was not so much the bite that gave us the worst experience out of all of this. She's been bitten before, and the last bite that she got was much worse than this one. But it was the after effects of the surgery that really threw a spanner into the works and gave us the horrible experience that I'm telling you about today. What I learned through this experience is that one of the conditions that you need to be mindful of with Greyhounds is that they can often have a problem with blood coagulation, so that if they have an injury or some surgery, there is the risk that they can experience bleeding. And although there are tests that you can have done on your dog, any kind of dog, for blood coagulation issues, apparently, according to my vet, those tests don't test for the genetic disorder that many Greyhounds have, which can cause them to bleed when they have experienced some kind of trauma to the skin or surgery or something like that. Just got Olive back from the vet hospital yesterday after spending the day there. It just shows you, even when you're being super careful, accidents can happen. This time, after the surgery, she suffered a hematoma, so that's why she's got all these bandages on. The hematoma is actually worse than the wound itself. This is another example of when a crate is really handy to have in your home. She needs to be on complete bed rest for the next little while, and I couldn't do that without a crate. I have to stop her from going up the stairs and from walking around to try and stop the bleeding. In previous surgeries that Olive has had, since I've had her, she's been spayed. She also had another dog bite more than a year ago now. With those two surgeries, there wasn't a problem at all. But with this wound, after the surgery, I got her home. I observed a few hours after the surgery that there was a pouch of blood forming just below the wound, and after a little while she had quite a saggy pouch underneath her belly. It was filling up quite fast. By midnight that night she was panting, she would not lie down, she was just pacing around, she was visibly distressed, she was exhausted. Her legs were vibrating, that's the only way I could describe it, making a very sort of low drumming sound. So at that point, I took her to the emergency vet. Before your dog suffers any kind of injury, it might be a good idea to know where your emergency vets are and to have their contact numbers and their address handy. Now, I had a conversation on the Facebook page that I belong to, the Long Nose Society of WA, and I asked a few people on the page, in the off chance that I might need an emergency vet, where would you all recommend that I go? And so a few people recommended a couple of places, and so I went to the website there, I took a screenshot of their contact details, I looked at where it was on the map, so that if in the event that I needed to get there, I already had that information and I didn't have to try and find it while I was in a panic. And I'm so glad that I did that, because at midnight that night, Olive became so distressed that I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I had to take her back to the vets, and by that stage the actual wound site was swelling up. It was like the size of a tennis ball or even a baseball under her skin on that wound. Off we went in the car to the emergency vets. Got there just after midnight and we were there till about 3:30 in the morning. She told me that it was a hematoma, that the pouch was filled with blood, and that this is just something that sometimes happens to greyhounds, even if they've never had any experience like this before with surgery, that it can just happen. You can't predict it necessarily. Definitely the sign to watch out for is the swelling around the wound site, particularly sort of where gravity would cause like the fluid to fall.
Treat. Treat. It's from the street. Treat. Oh, I have a treat. Yeah. Let's get you a treat. Oh, so stilly. So stilly. Let's open it up. Good girl.
Also, I thought I'd share with you the medication that the vet gave us to help stop the bleeding. So she gave her an injection, a painkiller, and I think she gave her some, the injection I think contained a blood clotting medication as well. And then we were put onto these tablets. I don't know if I can even pronounce this correctly. Cyclocapron. She needed to have one tablet every 8 hours. So that meant that I was giving her, oh, she's looking at me now with dread because she can hear the sound of the tablets. It's all right, you're finished with these now, Olive. I'm just telling everyone about them. You'll finish, no more of these. It's okay. Poor darling. She needed one of these every 8 hours, so I would give them to her in the middle of the night. I was looking at the videos now that I took along the way. I look absolutely tired and exhausted because I was tired and exhausted. I had to take a day off work because I hadn't slept that whole night afterwards, and it was pretty horrendous. What these cyclocapron tablets did was they helped to stop her body from breaking down the blood clots that she was forming. Because she's a greyhound and she's got this condition, which is very, very common for greyhounds, her body was breaking down the blood clots, and so she just would keep bleeding. So I'm hanging on to these tablets because if she is injured and she's bleeding and I notice that it's, you know, she's bleeding a lot, I don't want to risk the same thing happening again. I'll just put her straight back onto these. Now, unfortunately, with the cyclocapron, the blood clotting medicine, that was causing her stomach to be upset. So on top of all of the rest of the stuff I was dealing with, I also then had Olive vomiting several times during the night. I was up 4 or 5 times during the night cleaning up vomit. And so then she was put onto these tablets, which are low-sec, and that was to help settle her stomach. So that was, I had to give her that twice a day as well. Oh, and that's on top of the huge sized antibiotic that she was on as well, and that was, it's a very common one. She had 3 rounds of those antibiotics and it went on forever and ever and ever. And then at the end of it, she developed an ear infection, I'm assuming because of all the antibiotics. And if she had trouble settling, I was supposed to give her some of these tablets. And these were just a sedative. Now, I didn't end up having to give her any of these, but I've hung on to them just in case I ever need them. I hope I don't, but just in case. And that's trazodone. Some of you may have experienced the use of trazodone.
I might be imagining things, but Olive's front feet look different. They look puffier than her back feet. I don't know if that's always been the case, but they feel kind of squishy and they look very squishy.
We're just going for a very gentle little walk just to massage Olive's feet. She's had fluid building up in her feet from the hematoma, so the vet has said just a gentle short walk, so that's what we're doing. Getting the tablets into her was interesting as well. There's only so much peanut butter and cheese that Greyhound wants to eat. Let's see if I can disguise it well enough in this peanut butter. With him being there, it might actually help her to eat it, but I don't recommend doing this normally to normal greyhounds. Let's see. Oh, no problem, good girl, because the pussycat might have eaten your medicine and that would have been terrible. You get another one, have a little lick so you can see they're not always tricky. I'm not always tricking, sometimes I do have a treat for you. Poor pussycat. Okay, the cat really thinks he wants it, but that actually just makes her want it even more, which is kind of helping. Good girl. All gone. Good girl. So that's your antibiotic and that's good. Is that nice? Good girl. You want to lick the spoon, hey? You want to lick the spoon? You love a bit of peanut butter. Does Pussycat want some peanut butter? Does Puss want some peanut butter? Ugh, no, you don't like peanut butter. There we go. There we go. You guys are good little friends, aren't you? Hey? Yes. Oh, you want more? Oh, good girl. Good girl. Okay, let's have a look and see how your wound is looking, shall we? Let's see. Oh, it looks like it's gone down quite a lot. Okay, let's just freak everyone out a little bit. Okay, it still looks pretty horrible. Yeah. Yes, I know, don't touch it. That's why I've got her shirt on her, is to help stop her licking it, but also to let the air get to it. You're such a good girl. Yes, try this first one. Good girl. We've had varying success with this method. Sometimes she manages to spit the tablet out. Let's just see. I have a feeling she's found the tablet. Oh no, got it. Good girl. And this one. Let's see how this one goes. Uh-oh. Did we find the tablet? Making some faces, oh. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. That's your clotting tablet and your painkiller. Good girl. Okay, now I'm going to try and sneak her dose of Nurofen for dogs into her patty. That's a little bit harder. She seems to be able to taste it a little bit more, and quite often she's refusing her dinner because of it. Alrighty. Oops. Okay, 1 patty of food, dose of Nurofen, scoops of seaweed, simply seaweed, which I put in her dinner to help her teeth. And then I mix it up. Let's see if we can get her to eat it. Follow me. There you go, Will. Good girl, she's nearly finished, so that's good. That's the first time she's really gobbled her dinner down since she's had the accident. We're on our way to the vets. This is the 5th visit to the vet in 4 days. She's having her post-op checkup today, but it's not looking great, but it's hopefully not bad news, but I think they are worried a little bit about the wound, but it's still very, very swollen, so we're hoping that we might see a little bit of a reduction in swelling today. She hates going in there, although they treat her so nicely there. She gets so anxious when we go in, but anyway, trip number 5. So we just had our 5th vet visit, and good news, wasn't it, Olive? It was good news, and I didn't have to drag her into the vets today. She quite happily went in the door, and they're quite happy with how her wound is looking, and that the swelling has gone down a little bit, but it will probably just take some time, and it will eventually go down by itself, and that the bit of skin that looks like it's dying off will most likely just scab over and grow back on its own. So They seemed very happy with her progress, and although I still think her wound looks pretty horrendous, that's very good news and I'm very pleased. So we can maybe go and have a coffee now, Ol. I think we've deserved to go and have a coffee. Should we go have a coffee? We'll go to the cafe and have a coffee? Yeah, let's do that. We're going to go and see the vet. Trip number 6 in as many days. Hoping to hear some good news today. Still swollen, but hopefully it doesn't look like it's getting infected or anything. So we'll wait and see. Okay, Olive. She's getting very good at going to the vets. She's quite eager to go in there now. A good visit. She's still very swollen, and we're going to continue the antibiotics and the Panadol and the clotting medicine to see if we can get that big hematoma down, and no sign of infection, so that's fantastic. And we'll keep doing a little bit of light exercise, and hopefully soon she'll return to normal. As far as being predisposed to particular medical conditions, I've heard that Greyhounds are one of the healthiest breeds. You have some breeds that suffer, you know, pretty commonly from hip dysplasia or eye problems or those sorts of things. Greyhounds are relatively healthy when you compare them to other breeds. If there's going to be a list of things that Greyhounds suffer from, blood coagulation might be one of those things. But 5 weeks on, she's doing a whole lot better. She still has a bit of a lump on her side and a couple of funny chunky bits that are sticking out all the time. Some people have asked me how she is with other dogs since the bite. Well, other dog breeds, fine. Normally she absolutely adores Greyhounds though, so it kind of broke my heart a little bit that the one breed of dog that she just absolutely loves was the one that bit her. So hoping that we can get her used to the idea that not all fawn Greyhounds are going to bite you. One of the only good things that came out of this was that I was able to take Olive to school one of the days that I had to take her to the vet in the afternoon, and the girls at school loved seeing her there. It was really nice for her to come and visit and be able to say hello to some of the girls. Speaking of my students, I just want to say hi to Kate. She's always giving me some helpful ideas for some of my videos, and she's interested in my plants as well as Olive. So hello Kate, I hope you're watching this video and I hope you're enjoying the school holidays. So I just thought that that would be useful information for you if you're thinking of getting a Greyhound, or if you have a Greyhound already. Just be mindful if your dog suffers a wound of some kind or after surgery, just keep an eye on that wound to make sure that it's not filling up with fluid. If you've found this video helpful, if you'd like to watch any of my other videos and stay updated for any more videos that I upload, then please feel free to subscribe and ding the little bell, click the little bell so that you can be notified of any future videos that I upload. And thanks for watching. Bye for now, hopefully with some better news next time. Bye for now.